Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let's talk about the middleweight division. If I asked you for the name of a middleweight champion who currently has a KO streak of more than, let's say, his last 5 fights, I'm guessing 90% of the public would tell me Gennady Golovkin, right? Or Gennady Golovkin, right? Just understand that there's also a champion at middleweight who currently has a 7-fight KO streak going, right? This guy's one of the dominant KO punchers in all of boxing. Right, an argument can be made that he has more hand speed than Golovkin and throws the shorter punches. And that is Danny Jacobs. Just to give you an idea on how explosive Jacobs has been of late, his last fight was against unbeaten Peter Quillin, who himself used to hold a share of the middleweight title. That fight didn't make it out of the first round, right? The fight before that, he was against Sergio Mora, who had never been knocked out in a fight. Never. Had been down in fights, but had never been stopped in a fight. That fight went 2 rounds. Now, interestingly enough, you know the way boxing operates. Because both guys traded knockdowns in the first round of that fight, and because in the second round, with Jacobs dominating, right? Make no mistake, he knocks down Mora, right? But Mora fractures his ankle in what was a very entertaining fight. So Mora gets up, he's talking with the ref and him actually have a conversation where the ref is about to allow Mora to continue to fight. Mora's a warrior. He tries to walk forward, but you could tell he's badly hurt. The ref sees that he can't walk. The ref calls the fight. We later find out that Mora had a broken ankle. So, boxing fans who want to see champions challenged, right, who appreciated the fact that Mora, in a fight in which, quite frankly, he's getting blown out but for his knockdown of Danny Jacobs in the first round, right? Fans are saying, what? Danny Jacobs got knocked down? Let's see a rematch, right? This was an entertaining fight, right? Mora obviously came to fight, and fans don't like the idea of an ending where a guy really can't continue due to a broken bone, an injury that's outside of his control. So we have the rematch between Danny Jacobs and Sergio Mora. Now let me say this. Jacobs is better than advertised, right? He's better than advertised. Everything about him. Right? He's a cancer survivor. I have to tell you, I didn't think he'd be able to continue his career. Right? He's a cancer survivor. He has the kind of corner who, after he's knocked down, and he comes back to his corner, right? His corner is not there to, just be part of his fan club. Right? His corner basically told him, look, man, you were reckless. What you doing? Right? In other words, he is the kind of corner who has high expectations of him and has high expectations of themselves. Right? This isn't a fan club corner petrified about the possibility that the fighter might pick another corner. No, this is the corner that, wants the fighter to know, look, man, if you go out there, we see you wearing the belt. We know you're the champion. But if you go out there and if you get a little bit sloppy, like you did in this first round, you're going to hear about it from us. Right? You look at Jacobs' record. I'm just here to tell you that of all the fighters I've looked at on film over several years here, one of the fighters that intrigued me the most was the only man to beat Danny Jacobs professionally, and that was Dmitry Pirog. Right? He was the guy who was better than advertised. People may recall way back when I picked Pirog over Jacobs, who was favored in the fight. Right? But make no mistake, Pirog has moved on. I think he's retired. By the way, he was unbeaten. Right? I think he's retired. Understand, I think Jacobs is one of those guys who we, the boxing public, are overlooking. Right? Jacobs has been on quite a run. Now this fight, it's long odds. Jacobs is heavily favored. He's heavily favored. I don't like taking a heavily favored fighter because of the risk reward. I don't like the straight up play here. Right? You know, Jacobs simply to win. Because I don't think there's enough in it for me in terms of a potential profit. But here, I actually think because it's a rematch, because these guys look like they legitimately have some tension between the two of them, right? I think they both realize the other guy's talented and there's an alpha thing going on here, right? And because I think Jacobs realizes that he had Mora in severe trouble on the canvas in the second round of their last fight. In other words, Jacobs had dominated the fight. The broken ankle really was something that happened as Mora was hitting the canvas, right? It's taken on a life of its own. You know, if you read reports, you would think Mora was standing upright and then just suddenly fell to the canvas and had a broken ankle. No, he was hit to the canvas. So I think Jacobs wants to remove all doubt here against an opponent who's hit the canvas in his last 3 fights. I like Danny Jacobs by stoppage here. Now just understand the risk involved, right? Mora, before meeting Jacobs the first time, had never been stopped in a fight. Jacobs fought Caleb Truax, who in my opinion is underrated, right? Today's an underrated day. And that fight made it to the 12th round. So I'm guessing a lot of people are thinking, hey, wait a moment. Danny took a few rounds to get rid of Truax. Mora is defensively blessed, right? He's a guy who has great defense, right? Mora is one of the few guys in boxing who can lean on the ropes, spend an entire round on the ropes, and not really get hit with anything substantial. Right, Mora fought Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley jumped on him, tried to finish him. Ran into pretty good defense. Couldn't do it. Right? So I understand there's another side of the argument. But I'll say this. While the guys are roughly the same height, Danny Jacobs just looks like he has the stronger core strength. When they're close to each other, it just seems to me that Jacobs, who certainly has the stronger punch, Jacobs just has the stronger body. And I think Jacobs is going to make that body an issue because I believe he's going to push the issue. The mistake he made last time was he rushed in and he didn't have a guard up. Right? He got caught, got dropped. This time, I think he runs deeper into the pocket. I think he rushes in with his guard up. Why? Because of memories of their first fight. Right? And I think he's going to come in lean. Jacobs throws short punches. I know against Quillen he threw long punches. Let's just say Jacobs is a switch against this fighter. I think Jacobs is going to move around, get close, throw a short punch. What I want people to do is to look at the first round knockdown of Mora. Right? They're together. Mora tries to open up. The punch Jacobs throws couldn't have been longer than this. Drops Mora. Right? Make no mistake. That's not a slip. I know Mora is trying to look like he's tough when he gets off the canvas. Look in his eyes. Homeboy had been shaken. Right? I'm expecting Danny Jacobs to do more shaking in the rematch. I like Jacobs to win this fight unhedged by stoppage. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Golovkin is talking about, and I believe him, wanting to unify the middleweight title. Right? That's what he wants to do. Canelo had a share of the belt. Golovkin was interested in fighting Canelo. Golovkin's been interested in fighting Billy Joe Saunders, who has a share of the title. It's only a matter of time before K2, Golovkin's group, gets together with Al Heyman, Jacobs' group, and we have a big-time pay-per-view event in a middleweight unification match, right, between two guys who, quite frankly, are two of the sport's premier KO punchers, right? As you watch this rematch between Jacobs and Mora, I need to have you think about how Jacobs would do against Golovkin. I know people are looking at Kell Brook, a welterweight, who's moving up in weight. Right? And they're thinking in terms of, oh, maybe he's too athletic for Golovkin. Or, maybe his hand speed's going to give Golovkin problems. Folks, you have a guy, a middleweight, with a title, who has a hand speed advantage on Golovkin, and who can fight better on the inside than welterweight Kell Brook, already in the division. Right? So, just in terms of the future, you should really be interested in this fight because, quite frankly, Golovkin right now is making a case for greatness. When you see a fighter with the career of a Golovkin, you really do have to think about who can test him. Right? And as I like to say, too, in boxing, many times we're focused on guy A. Things can turn on one fight. It's only later that we put together the pieces of the puzzle and we start to realize that guy B, in this case, Danny Jacobs, right, might be a boxing Hall of Famer, might himself be positioning himself, guy's only 29, for a serious challenge to get on the division's Mount Rushmore. Right? Carlos Monzon, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Bernard Hopkins. Right? I would argue if Golovkin beats Kell Brook and goes on and beats Saunders or Jacobs, I believe Golovkin is on that Mount Rushmore. But let's be fair here. If Danny Jacobs turns around, beats Saunders, has a big showdown, this is the way boxing works. Right, has a big showdown with Golovkin. Just like Hopkins had a generation ago with Felix Trinidad. Right, then perhaps Jacobs is on that Mount Rushmore. Certainly he has the power. Folks, right now he's in a 7-fight KO streak. Not winning streak, KO streak. Right, with a big win over Kid Chocolate. Anyway, that's how I see it. Jacobs by stoppage. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here in the comment section to this video. If there are other middleweights out there, right, who you think belong in the conversation, right? Or if there's stylistically some fighters out there who would give certain guys problems. And I'm just here to tell you that every time I look at films of 154-pounder Demetrius Andrade, I view him as an opportunity against an elite fighter, right? If you think they're guys, the Charlo brothers, if you think they're guys out there who deserve mention in the conversation, I hope you bring them into the conversation in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.